You know, to really get a figure like Saladin, you have to understand the world that made him. So, we're going to wind the clock back way before his time, to the one event that really set the stage for his entire life. Let's get into it.
Jerusalem is ours. The cross has triumphed. Can you just imagine that cry? Picture it echoing through shattered streets. I mean, it's a shout of pure victory. But think about what that means. It's a sound rising over a city that's just been plunged into absolute chaos and bloodshed. This was the end of a long, brutal road.
So the date is July 1199. The city is Jerusalem, and the outcome is a massacre. So you have to ask yourself, right? How did this even happen? How did an army from halfway across the world show up at the gates of the sacred city and unleash this kind of horror? Let's break it down. We're actually going to start right at the end with the fall of the city itself, because we really need to understand what was at stake here. So, from what the historical accounts tell us, when those walls were finally breached, the invading army just poured into the city. The defenders, they were exhausted, totally outnumbered, and what followed was just a wave of pure destruction. We're talking about accounts that say no one was spared. Men, women, children. Beit al-Maqdis, the holy city, was turned into a scene from a nightmare. Okay, so how did we get here? To answer that, we have to rewind and find out where this all began. Where did this army even come from? And what put them on this path in the first place? Right. This wasn't some sudden thing. It was a long, 4-year slog of a campaign. It started back in 1095 with a single incredibly powerful speech, and then it just carved this bloody path through major cities like Nicaea and Antioch before it finally reached its ultimate goal, Jerusalem.
And it all started with this, a single call to arms: go, liberate the Holy Land. In Clermont, France, Pope Urban II gave a sermon that basically lit a fire across all of Europe, getting thousands of people to drop everything and march under this one powerful banner.
Okay, a quick but really important note on language. You're going to hear me use the word French a lot. This is what the local Arab and Muslim sources called these European invaders. It's crucial because it gives us their perspective on who exactly was showing up on their shores. So you've got this massive, fired-up army on the move. But here's the thing, and this is maybe the most important point of the whole story. Their success wasn't just about their own strength. It was just as much about the weakness, the division of the people they were about to face. Their first huge test was the city of Nicaea. This was the capital of the Seljuk Sultanate, the big Turkic power in the area. But this is where the politics get really messy and honestly, super interesting. The Byzantine Emperor Alexios I, he didn't see the Franj as friends. He saw them as a tool, a disposable one. He basically pointed them at his rivals, the Seljuks, hoping they'd do his dirty work and win back his land for him. And what was the view from the other side? Well, it was a complete and fatal miscalculation. The Seljuk Sultan, Kilij Arslan, reportedly just brushed them off. He called them just groups of undisciplined warriors. He didn't see a real unified army, and that underestimation, it was going to cost him dearly. So Nicaea falls, but, and this is a huge but, it doesn't fall to the French. The Byzantine emperor went behind their backs and cut a secret deal. So when the Franks were getting ready for their final assault, they woke up and saw Byzantine flags flying over the city. They'd been played. It was a brutal first lesson in the backstabbing politics of the region. But that didn't stop them. The Franks just kept marching. Next up, Antioch, this massive, nearly unbeatable fortress city. Its governor, a man named Yagi Siyan, he knew he couldn't hold it by himself. He sent out desperate messages for help to all the neighboring Muslim rulers, the emirs of cities like Aleppo and Damascus. You'd think they'd rush to help, right? Nope, the help never came. The attitude among these other rulers was basically, why should I sacrifice my men, let someone else take that risk? They were all so caught up in their own little rivalries that they couldn't see the bigger threat. And this slide right here just lays it all out perfectly. It's the core of the whole conflict. On one side, you have the Franj. Yeah, they fought amongst themselves, but they had one single unifying goal. On the other side, you had the emirs, who were just this fractured mess of personal ambitions. That disunity, that was the invaders' greatest weapon. So, what happens when you're isolated and nobody comes to help? Well, the result was pretty much inevitable. Antioch holds out for a long time, but eventually it falls, thanks to a traitor on the inside. And with that massive fortress gone, the road to Jerusalem was now wide open. But wait, there was another major player in this whole game, the Fatimids down in Egypt. And unbelievably, they made the exact same mistake as the Byzantines, but with way worse consequences. First, they saw the Frange as a handy weapon to use against their Seljuk rivals. Then, they took advantage of the chaos and actually captured Jerusalem for themselves in 1098. They thought they could make a deal with the Frange, completely missing the fact that Jerusalem wasn't a bargaining chip. It was the whole point. So the fall of Jerusalem was this absolute catastrophe, right? And it was a catastrophe born from division. But in the rubble of that defeat, something new started to grow. The first seeds of a real unified resistance were finally planted. But this wasn't an overnight thing, not even close. It took almost 30 years. For 30 decades, the Franches built their new kingdoms, they put up castles, they settled in. The shock of Jerusalem's fall wasn't enough to bring people together. The local emirs just went back to their old rivalries, fighting each other more than they fought the invaders.
And then, finally, someone new steps onto the stage, Imad ad-Din Zengi. He got it. He understood the lesson that everyone else had missed. He saw that the only way to fight back against the Frange was to copy their biggest strength, their unity. And so he started the long, hard work of trying to pull the warring Muslim factions together for one single cause.
And his message, it really marks a turning point in history. This wasn't just another call to battle. This was a call to put aside decades of infighting for something bigger. For the first time, the idea of a unified resistance, a counter-crusade, was born. So, there it is. The world was left with this massive challenge. The fall of Jerusalem had proven, in the most brutal way possible, that disunity meant defeat. Zengi had planted the seed of a new way forward. The stage was now set for someone to come along and finish what he started. Someone who could finally forge that unity from the ashes. And that was the world waiting for Salah ad-Din.